What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the BlockHash Podcast, your number one resource for all that is happening across the emerging tech space. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch this show. Today, I'm joined by Venket. He is the co-founder and CEO of Serenity. We're going to learn more about Serenity today and how they are revolutionizing data security. Venket, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm happy to have you here today. I'm sure we're going to have a wonderful conversation about Serenity. To get things underway, I think the best way to start is tell us a little bit about yourself and your backgrounds. Give us a little bit of an introduction into how you got introduced into the world of blockchain and data systems and in this area of tech. What's your journey kind of been like?
So first, once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based upon the time zone. So I'm Venket Naga. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Serenity. Basically, I'm from India. I have an engineering background. And previously I was more from the corporate side of Web2 world. I was involved in forming large companies, mergers and acquisitions, corporate finance, banking, and so on and so forth. However, in the last 4 years, I have to say, I went back to my technical background. I looked at the immense potential of the blockchain technology. I said, why don't I get into this again so that I can use this for the global community in a certain way? Why so? Let me explain why and how this whole concept of Serenity was conceptualized. Because if you look at after the advent of the internet revolution, with the large tech giants taking over the internet world, whatever we share on the internet in terms of data, whatever you speak or you write, we are taking it for granted. It is private and secure, but we all know privacy on internet today is a kind of a myth, right? We have sort of taken it for granted and we are assuming it's whatever it is, whereas probably it's not what it is, right? So people like me, when we looked at the immense potential of what the blockchain technology could offer, especially for me, I said, why don't I use this technology and give that real sense of privacy and security, which the global community really deserves today, right? That's the whole concept of why people like me, especially me, got into Serenity because I wanted to use the immense power that the blockchain technology can give. Of course, I'll go into the details of what sort of technology that we are using as we move forward with the conversation to give that privacy, security, and those kind of things. And that's how I got involved, and that's why Serenity was born in the first place.
Awesome, man. Yeah, privacy, security, these are things that are very important, especially in our digital age today and where Web3 is kind of heading and all the data leaks and dumps and hacks that happen amongst all the TradFi companies that are out there. It's more important than ever before. So glad that this is something that you put a lot of emphasis on and work hard on with Serenity. And excited to learn more about it as well. Can you tell us a bit about maybe what the core mission is for Serenity before we get into some of the details? Like, what are the main things that you guys want to solve in terms of the problems around data and helping people kind of take back, I guess, control of their data?
Yeah. So, I'll just put it in a very simple and a common man sense, right? Privacy, security, data sovereignty, and self-ownership of data. These are the core fundamental principles that we would want to sort of offer. And I will also take this as an opportunity to introduce what we do at Serenity. So, Serenity essentially, we are a technology company. We offer decentralized data storage. Maybe I'll explain further what decentralized data storage actually means. We have our own patent pending blockchain technology. We deploy that to offer decentralized data storage, which is combined with also survivability of data. Because one of the key things, it's not about only storing the data in a safe and a secure manner. You should be able to pass the data, or the data have to be survived against breaches, hacks, and even so many other factors. The data have to be survived. So we provide this decentralized data storage platform with data survivability, which we call it in our own terminology. We have created our own concept called DDASP, which is Decentralized Data Survivability Protocol. So you can imagine an ecosystem where using blockchain, you have decentralized data storage with data survivability, with inheritance and succession, and so on and so forth. Then we said, We want even the common user to be able to use this technology, because I personally believe that no technology can survive if there is no use case and if there is no adoption, right? So to be able to take it to the mainstream customer, we said we have to put something to this so that the normal user is able to feel it and use it. And that's why we integrated the biometrics technology into blockchain, and we came up with this card where the user can feel it, touch it, it's tangible, and he is going to validate the access and everything that he is going to do within our system, tapping his own card where his biometrics is registered. That gives him that layer of trust and comfort, right? So with this biometrics technology integrated into blockchain, fundamentally we are providing decentralized data storage with survivability, where the user can control and own his own data. At a nutshell, that's what we do.
Interesting. Tell me more about this biometrics technology that you guys have. Is this like similar to like a fingerprint scan or an eye scan or something along those lines?
Yeah, this is like a fingerprints. Like basically, we provide the card, and then we also provide you what is called a reader or a sleeve. And then you register your biometrics into the reader. You pair the card to the sleeve, and then whenever you tap the card, of course, this card, I mean, in a Web3 terminology, this card is storing what is called the private key of the user, right? So the private key is stored in the card, which is where your biometrics is registered and paired. And every time you tap it, the biometrics gets validated, and then it gives you access, it gives you whatever it lets you do within our application. So that's how, of course, the card has an NFC chip, but private key is stored inside the card, and that's fundamentally the card works.
Interesting. That's fascinating. And then how do you combine this and couple it with blockchain as a technology? How do these two things kind of intertwine together?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, it's a kind of a secret sauce, I would say. I mean, so when you sort of use your biometrics, which is essentially your fingerprints, that means you're creating a digital identity for yourself, right? And this digital identity, when it gets into blockchain, we convert that into the visual representation of the user called the NFT. So basically, we are linking the digital identity, which is validated by the biometrics of a particular human being, and pairing it or linking it to a visual representation, which is what in blockchain terminology we call it the NFT. So the NFT becomes the primary component because, I mean, let me explain this to you a little bit to give you an analogy, right? When you go to a bank, you have a big locker room. You have to first enter the room, and then after entering into the room, you have to go and access your specific locker where your things are stored, right? So the identity using biometrics gives you the entry to enter into the large room. Then you need to have your own access to go to the location where your data is stored. Hope I'm clear, right? So that means we use the biometrics to create a digital identity for yourself, which is then converted into an NFT. And then we use this NFT to give you a specific access credential to go and access to the particular location where your data is stored. Hope I'm clear.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fascinating. And I can imagine there's a million different use cases for this as well. But what industries you see this maybe being used in the most frequently? Because I could see this in everything from healthcare and supply chain to fintech and the corporate world, to even small businesses in certain ways. But what verticals are you seeing this, being applied to the most, or that you see the most demand for?
Yeah, so one of the key functionalities is that the user essentially can store any form of a digital data in our solution, right? Because it could be a text file, audio file, video file, doc file, whatever you name it, any form of a digital data can be stored within our solution. As you said, that makes it usable by an individual. It can be used by a small or a medium business enterprise, or it could be used by a large corporation. So, I mean, you name it. That's why we are a product for everyone. Because today, in today's world, when we are moving towards a digital universe, digital data is the new oil, and within that domain, digital data is even more sort of, I mean, the adoption of digital data is going to sort of quadruple, and it's going to really explode in the coming years. With all that in mind, you need a safe and a secure and a private place to store this data, right? And of course, with succession and survivability of data, which is also usable using certain very safe methods of access, which is what we provide through biometrics. As you said, our solution can be used by banking, insurance, health sector, supply chain, government and public services, energy. So you name it, any sort of an industry, whether it's at an individual level or a small or a medium business enterprise or a large corporation, we have a solution for everybody on the table.
Interesting. Do you imagine this would be something that's, also pretty global that you could take with you anywhere, that could work across borders and jurisdictions? But could this be something that's permissioned in certain ways? So, for all different kinds of security reasons, maybe it only works if you go into a Pentagon office, or it only works if you go to a certain hospital. Like, how much flexibility could there be baked into this?
Yeah, so I think you have raised a very interesting point, because when people think about blockchain, these are the fundamental questions which comes to their mind: is it anonymous? It is permissionless? Is it permissioned? Is it going to be within a certain kind of a regulatory framework? Because especially when you're talking about the data which belongs to an enterprise or a corporation, you may have some regulatory requirements that the data have to be stored within a particular country or a jurisdiction, right? So we have thought about all these kind of things, and that is why whatever we are creating as a decentralized data storage, we are doing it based upon our own DeepIn network. I'm sure DeepIn is decentralized physical infrastructure network, right? So we have a server infrastructure, which is, we call it in our terminology, as a point of presence, and this is a kind of a private cloud. It's a virtual private cloud storage, and we are implementing this in specific locations. We have one in Muscat, we have one in Chennai, and we are going to have 25 to 30 locations across the globe, where we give the option to the user that they can choose to store the data which is as per the regulatory requirements in a particular country or a particular jurisdiction. So that way, the more and more that we are entering into the data storage for the enterprise businesses, we will have such points of presence across the globe, which will help in two ways. One, it will help them to satisfy the regulatory requirement, and it will also create a lot of redundancy, in the sense that if one location fails, that can be picked up by another location. And also it will give that sort of an efficiency where a user can go to the location which is nearest to him, right? So there is an operational efficiency, there is a cost efficiency, there is a transparency. It is coming within a regulatory framework. So we have thought about all these kind of things, and we are trying to implement them in a certain way that it can be used to answer your question on a global scale.
Awesome. Now, let me ask you this as well. I'm curious if you have any maybe use cases that you can highlight. I saw that you had a few different things, from S-Access to S-Box to S-Vault. Maybe you can touch on these a little bit individually as well. But what stands out as like a really good example of Serenity at play and in action, as well as the biometrics combined with the blockchain approach here? What can you highlight to kind of give us some real world use case examples of everything happening?
I think you touched some of our key products. Of course, I'll go one by one, in the sense that the first one is S-Access, right? So what is S-Access? S-Access is a biometric hardware wallet. So what does it mean? Hardware wallet where the user can store, send, and receive his crypto assets. So of course, that there is an on-chain wallet like a MetaMask wallet or a Trust wallet, but that is on-chain. And there are certain other hardware wallets which is off-chain, right? Because the off-chain hardware wallets are much more safe and secure. And we, just to name some of them already in the market, which is like Ledger, Tangent, Trezor, etc. So those are some of the hardware wallets which are available in the market already. And S-Access is a unique kind of its own because of several USPs that we have incorporated into the hardware wallet, which is, number one, is it is driven, the access to this hardware wallet is driven by biometrics. So we are the only one, or we are the very few hardware wallet which is available in the market today where the external access is possible only through biometrics validation. So that is one USP. And the second thing is, since fundamentally we are a blockchain storage company, we have integrated our storage solution into this hardware wallet. where we give the option to the user to store his wallet seed phrase. Because as you know, one of the perennial problems in the Web3 world is where does the user go and store his seed phrase, right? So using our blockchain storage layer, we are giving the option for the user to store or recover his seed phrase in case he loses his card. Because one of the common questions is what happens if you lose your card because you have stored certain amount of crypto assets in the wallet? What happens if you lose the card? Very simple. You can go into our application, you can go into the disaster recovery option, choose it, and follow all the steps wherein you can recover your seed phrase from the storage layer, buy a new card, enter your seed phrase, and recover all the crypto assets, right? So, and of course, we are also incorporating the inheritance layer into this card, where based upon an inheritance protocol, you can even choose to give the crypto assets that you have stored in the wallet to your successor in the future whenever you want to. So now you imagine it's a hardware wallet driven by biometrics at the front. You have an ability to store your seed phrase, recover it when you lose the card, and also give it to your son or a daughter or a partner whenever you want to. I think, don't you think it's a fascinating product, right? So that because you see, I mean, crypto is really becoming mainstream because as of today, if I speak, of course, Bitcoin is more valuable than even Amazon. It's touching near Apple's valuation as of today. So we are talking about something like about $3.5 trillion is the market cap of crypto, including BTC and the other altcoins, right? So when you have 3.4 to 3.5 trillion market cap of crypto assets, you need to give them the right wallet infrastructure to store them in a safe and a secured manner, and also give it to their successor or inheritor, God forbid if something happens to them, right? So all these kind of requirements and functionalities are handled by S-Access, which is one of our products. And S-Box, as you said, is the first product that Serenity launched. It is fundamentally, it's a storage product where the user can store his seed phrase, he can give it to his inheritor. But now we also have the enterprise version of S-Access and S-Box Pro, S-Access Pro, which is the enterprise version of S-Access, and S-Box Pro is the enterprise version of S-Box, wherein the S-Access can be used mainly for biometrics access to replace your 2FA authorization for existing companies and corporations. You imagine you are giving them a potential to create an access and an entry world where there is no 2FA, no login, no passwords, no pins. The user can just use his biometrics to enter into an existing system. Because in 2025, it is estimated that there is about $10.5 trillion is going to be spent on cybersecurity. You see, I mean, you see how many hacks and breaches that happens within corporations, no matter what they do, whether it's online or offline or whatever, right? Because access is one of the major areas of vulnerability where such hacks and breaches happen. So you imagine you're creating a system through our S-Access Pro where you can replace all those passwords, login methods, credentials, and pins and all that using your own biometrics card. That's going to be really sort of useful and fascinating as a use case. So it can be used as a hardware wallet. It can be used as a biometrics entry device to replace your existing methods of 2FA, etc. And then S-Box Pro, the enterprise version, can be used by health sector companies. I mean, let me give you an example of a health sector company because we are talking to some health sector companies in US and Canada to provide them a solution, right? So you have the medical data of the patients. You want to store the medical data in a decentralized data platform. So that means the medical data of the clients or the patients are stored on a decentralized data platform on blockchain, which is very safe and secure. So for every user, you give them an S-Access card, which means he can have access to his own biometrics, which is getting converted into an NFT on blockchain. And that NFT, he can sort of fine tune the access to his own medical data. Why? Because a client's or the patient's medical data, the amount of information that you may want to give to a doctor is different from what you may want to give to an insurance company or what you may want to give to a service provider, or what you may want to give to a scanning club, I mean, scanning clinic, right? So the same medical data of one patient, the amount of access that you may want to give is going to vary from a doctor, from an insurance company, for a scanning clinic, or a whatever lab, a laboratory might have a different access, right? So you can decide all these varying level of access credentials and give accordingly the access to your own data using your own biometrics validation. So I think now the whole picture is starting to emerge, like what the biometrics can play an active role when it's getting converted into an NFT, and you can create various levels of access credentials to your own particular data, which is stored on blockchain in a private and a secure manner. So this is the whole ecosystem that we are talking about in terms of a real world use case. Hope I was clear.
Absolutely. And I specifically love stuff like S-Axis because let's be real, there's so many issues with seed phrases today, and you get into the corporate world and they don't have time to remember 12 to 24 words, and there's so many problems with that. I've had problems with that. Like there needs to be modern solutions for these things so that, if you're operating at a high frequency, high pace environment and there's so many moving parts, like if someone has access to really important information, whether it's their information, company information, government information, you don't want that stuff getting lost. You don't want access getting lost. So you need a really good ecosystem to really help manage a lot of this stuff. So I think you guys have really thought about a lot of different areas here. So I love the products and the use cases out of Serenity. Want to ask you a couple high level questions as well, kind of get your take and your feedback on things like seed phrases and digital ID. And decentralized data. Like, where do you think some of this is going in the future in terms of its importance and being implemented in everyday applications? Do you think that decentralized data will be a common future backbone for a lot of the applications we see in the future? Do you think it'll be very niche based, or where do you think that'll take us?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question because, as I said, any technology is going to be able to survive the times only if it is being used by people, right? One of the key challenges that we are facing in the blockchain space today is the adoption, right? I mean, for that, there are certain things which we need to handle because, for a common user, when he's being asked, because, as I said in the beginning of the show, is that they are taking the privacy and security for granted, right? Because they are used to it. And it's a kind of, they don't want to change it. So you need to provide him something because you need to create that layer of trust and comfort, right? That's very important. It has to be user friendly. If it's going to be something which he can't even use it. So some of the key features which are entry barriers, which we are trying to sort of solve is one is creating the trust element, creating that user interface which is simple to use, creating the comfort to be able to use the solution, and also give him the real privacy and security where he can see the difference. And that's why we are bringing things like biometrics and all that. To answer your question, yes, decentralized data storage is going to be the future, but it all depends upon how tech companies like Serenity are going to be able to present it in a certain way, which is going to handle all these entry barriers and move this whole solution into mass adoption. That is why, for me, inheritance is a very, very major factor which we are handling, which I believe is a major entry barrier. Because the moment you get into the digital space, in terms of digital domain, of digital assets, etc., people still don't know. God forbid, if something happens to you, what's going to happen to your digital assets, which is stored somewhere in a wallet or wherever, right? So inheritance succession is one of the major key factors which is still limiting the adoption of blockchain technology going forward, especially from a mainstream world, from a common user, right? So we are fundamentally addressing all these matters, and that is why I believe companies like Serenity will be in the front line because we are trying to become a kind of a digital bridge or a digital gateway between the normal world and the niche world so that we can move this whole niche thing into the mainstream adoption. And that is very key for this technology to survive the years to come.
What do you think about seed phrases? Like when we talk about things like inheritance, corporate world, governments, these can be quite an issue, a vector that people struggle with quite a bit. Do you think that we need to evolve beyond seed phrases? Do you think that they're really good? We just need better ways to store them. Where do you think this takes us? I know it's such a legacy backbone of this industry, but again, there's so many problems that usually arise from seed phrases in general. Where do we go from here with these?
No, I think eventually, of course, people talked about abstraction and stuff like that. It's all in the process. But I think when people like us, when we are going to, for example, let's just take the example of risk access card, right? I mean, if we are going to implement the S-Access card into an enterprise solution or into a corporation or whatever, you don't need to have your own wallet, in which case you don't need to have a seed phrase, right? Is because in a way there will be more and more sort of creative solutions which will come into the market. It all depends on how you want to position the product and how you want to position the technology, right? So I think I can't give you a straightforward answer to say whether it will go this way or that way. It all depends upon how the technology is being driven to move towards a mass adoption, and the technology will evolve and adapt itself on its own to sort of fine tune its position based upon the requirements of the common consumer. I would want to put it that way, rather than taking a position that it will take this direction or that direction.
Interesting. And then what do you think about the future of digital ID as well? Like, do you think eventually everyone will have a digital ID and all of our private personal data information will be on chain at some point? Or again, do you think this will also be very use case driven?
No, I think that is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, I think it's just a matter of when, right? Because seed phrase is something which is a little bit more, niche, as you said, but digital identity and digital data and all that, it's not a matter of if, it's definitely a matter of when and to what level. Because if you remember, even the governments were supposed to give, now all the stable coins are coming into play. Of course, there was a lot of talk about CBDC, which is central bank digital currencies. Of course, now since the US markets have opened up for crypto adoption and digital currency, everybody is trying to create their own stable coin, right? So when there's going to be a central bank digital currency, or when there's going to be a stable coin, and when BTC is going to be sort of adopted by the normal shops, etc., so people, in a way, will have to get used to the concept of digital assets, digital identity, and the digital domain of how they want to move around in terms of even doing their day-to-day stuff. So it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, and it is already happening in a massive way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's definitely going to be something that proliferates throughout society, because I think it'll just solve a lot of problems in general, especially around data. No, this has been an awesome conversation, Venket. What's on the horizon here for Serenity the rest of 2025? Are you guys working on any new products and use cases? Do you have any important announcements that you want people to be aware of? Any updates with Serenity? What's kind of on the horizon here?
Yeah, of course, as I said, we have all these products, the S-Access, the S-Box, the enterprise version. Now it's really time for us to take these products into the market. We are already talking about, one of the things which I wanted to mention, which we didn't touch base, is Serenity is going very deep into the RWA space, which is real world assets tokenization, because we believe that's a space with all the things that we bring to the table in terms of storage, inheritance, succession, validation using biometrics and stuff like that, which are very, very vital if somebody has to create an entire ecosystem for RWA tokenization. We announced a major partnership with a US company called Zonix, who have already tokenized about $10 billion worth of real world assets. So we have announced a partnership with Zonix. So we are going very, very deep into the RWA tokenization space. And one of the other areas, which I think I'm talking about it for the first time, so you're having this news for the first time, we will be announcing our crypto payment card as well, which hopefully within the coming months or so. And that will really give a monetization value where a normal crypto user or a crypto asset holder can convert that into a normal currency like dollars, euro, or whatever. He can use it in a MasterCard or a Visa network terminal, right? So these are things that are very important, because when you have $3.4 or $3.5 trillion of market cap of assets, people should be able to use it, right? That is where the whole issue is coming. So by deploying our blockchain patent pending Serenity's technology and products and features, we are trying to sort of have a global utility by playing a crucial role into the RWA tokenization space, because I personally believe the RWA tokenization will be a $1 trillion industry. So we want to play a very critical role in this $1 trillion RWA tokenization space. And we also want to let the users to unlock the value on a day-to-day basis, for which we are bringing this crypto payment card. So you can imagine, with all the products and features, if you're going to get into a $1 trillion RWA space, and we are also going to provide the wallet infrastructure to store your assets and spend them on a day-to-day basis, we will have a 360-degree ecosystem, and that's what I would like to point here as a part of a future upcoming roadmap.
Nice, man. That's exciting. I definitely think it'll be much bigger than $1 trillion ecosystem at some point. But
I talk about this, my friend. In fact, there's always a debate: is it real? I said yes, it is real. It's going to be 1 trillion and more. Some people tend to disagree with me. As you said, I personally believe it will be $1 trillion or more industry.
absolutely, it'll be very exciting to see. So much value will get unlocked on chain, and it'll make economically it a lot easier to tap into things like real estate and precious metals, as well as undiscovered assets, virtual assets, in gaming, in world. Like, it opens up so many different doors and possibilities. So glad that you guys are getting into that side of the space as well. Should be a pretty exciting part of the next 5 to 10 years or so. Will you guys be at any events, conferences, engagements this year as well? Have you attended any already? Where can people, link up with you guys in person and get in touch?
Yeah, of course, our website is s.technology. That's our website. We are in Telegram, Twitter, Discord, and we are participating in all the events. I would definitely love your audience to come and visit our website. That will have an updated situation of all our product launches, and we also have enabled the users to be able to buy the products from our website itself. So, and for example, S-Access is right now, it's in App Store. We are in Google's Play Store, and we are also launching Amazon stores in different countries of the world. So I really would want your audience to come and follow us and be a part of this journey. And we also have launching our affiliate program for our different products and services. So they can contact us even through the own affiliate program. So there's a lot of interesting stuff which is happening for Serenity with all these product launches that we are doing and the new domains that we are getting into. So I would definitely love your audience to come and visit our website, follow our socials, and be a part of this journey.
Absolutely. We'll put everything in the description for the episode down below so everyone can easily find everything and check out the website and get any additional information that you guys have, as well as socials, community, all that kind of stuff. So we'll make sure it's all there. Venket, really appreciate the episode, man, the conversation. This has been really great. Learned a lot about what you guys are doing. I love the product suite as well. So keep up all the great work and keep me updated on new updates as they come out throughout the year. When you have new information, new things to talk about, always happy to have you back on. Maybe we can find a time to do this in person at some point in the near future as well. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure. I really love the conversation as well. And thank you again for having me today. And thank you all for your audience. And just come and visit Serenity and know more about us.